a relevant issue which affects our life, all of us here. There's no running away. And we want to put it in a very simple manner as to how we can handle it, why is it affecting us, so that we understand the issue much better. Now, joining us this morning, ladies first, of course, is the Professor Datuk Adhika Dr. Fatima Muhammad Arshad. She is a research fellow at the University Putra Malaysia, specializing in agriculture marketing and policy analysis. She is currently a member of the country's National Agriculture Advisory Council, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industry. She is the head Agriculture and Food Security Cluster. Now, this is really important. Academy of Professors, Malaysia, Senior Fellow at the Institute for Democracy and Economic Affairs or IDEAS, Kuala Lumpur. Her research areas include agriculture marketing and economic issues, policy analysis and market structure, conduct and performance. She has carried out various policy studies, particularly on the role of agriculture subsidies and incentives in the paddy and rice industry, food management, food security, agriculture cooperatives, food supply chain, price analysis, and agriculture commodity and sector modeling. And on my left, of course, is the one and only Mr. Iskandar Ismail. He has been a very humble person. Only after I read the full biodata did I realize that his background is really, really interesting. Let me share with you, okay? Mr. Iskandar Ismail was appointed as the Chief Executive Officer for MyCC, or the Malaysia Competition Commission, on 15 October 2018. After serving as the Director of Investigation and Enforcement Division for more than five years. He graduated from the International Islamic University with LLB Honours in 1997 and holds an LLM or a Master's in International and Comparative Law from the George Washington University Law School in Washington, D.C. Admitted to the High Court of Malaya as an advocate and solicitor, he has served at Bank Negara Malaysia as a prosecuting officer for 7 years. Prior to joining MyCC, he was an assistant trial attorney with the United Nations for the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in Tanzania for 8 years. I think he's the only one in Malaysia with that, eh? So you're writing a book as well. He is currently listed in the Justice Rapid Response Expert Roster, a professional service provider to entities that have the jurisdiction or mandate to investigate fact-finding or carry out inquiries whenever mass atrocities may have occurred. So we have two very important persons here to share their views on where we're heading and what we can do. Okay, without wasting any more time, we will get the conversation going. So we will talk about the segment on economic factors. Question one, we will address it to Professor. Now, exploitative pricing in general terms is when the price is excessive and is unreasonable in relation to the economic value of the product supply. In view of this, what do you think is the root cause of exploiting pricing?
Assalamualaikum, good morning. Thank you, MyCC and Dr. Sri, for inviting me on the stage. Right, exploitative pricing. Number one, prices do increase, right, because of maybe cost push reason, inflationary, supply-demand imbalance, and so on. But this time round is the pandemic factor that caused disruption in supply, and of course the lockdown and a number of mitigation measures. And this is happening globally. It's not only unique to Malaysia. Because of the supply disruption, it affects production more than the demand. Demand is increasing because economy is recovering, and as in the case of Malaysia, we have tourism bubble, we open up shop and so on. Everybody wants to go dine in, be it top 20, M40 or B40. We want to get out of the house and eat food wherever we like. But the production sector is already damaged by lockdown and as well as movement control. So demand is increasing, but production is troubled, right? And therefore there is a gap there. And as usual, even this is happening in OECD, the traders are profiteering from that situation, right? So this is very much an empirical question. It needs data, but unfortunately data is not available. But I can share with you the conducive structural environment that encourage them to profiteer. Number one, highly concentrated at the middle. We have many small farmers at the middle. The wholesalers are very small in numbers, but big share of market, right? And they are capitalists in a way. They buy and sell. So the only capital they have is capital. Once you are a capitalist, your objective is to maximize your return to capital. Therefore, that's your role, to maximize profit, right? Number two, in the past, the wholesalers or the big-time traders, they are asymmetric in their pricing. That means when the price is trending up, they quickly increase the price. But when the price is trending down, they are very sticky, asymmetric pricing. So the structural condition, as well as their past behavior based on literature, and the opportunities to profiteering is there. So most probable, highly probable, they do exploitative pricing. I might be wrong, but this is my argument. Thank you.
Prof, as a follow-up question, we have some idea now of why prices are increasing all around the world, not just particularly in Malaysia. Some have said that this is only temporary. As the economies open up, things will be better, prices will be more reasonable. Did you see that happening?
Those free market advocates, they say, let it be. The market will take care of itself, you know. The market will correct itself. But in our context, because of the damage of pandemic, there are so many poor people. Poor people are everywhere. Hardship is everywhere. Not only B40, but also M40. 20% asleep into B40, right? So we can't let them, stay in the road, and it could be reinforcing, right? So we need to help these people. These people are producers, consumers, low job workers, and so on. Remember, when the poor are poorer, is a bed of discontent, a fertile bed for discontent. So we need to bring them back so that they can work and help the economy.
We will come back to that later on how. For long-term mitigation issues, what would be the best way of handling this? Now, I'm going to talk about supply chain, because supply chain obviously has a big role in terms of exploiting pricing, and of course that the supply chain has been the cause, one of the major cause of the food disruption and food distribution, and resulting in a bigger, higher cost of production and prices. Now, we want to ask this to Iskandar. From MyCC's point of view, how does the issue of exploiting pricing impact the overall supply chain across industries?
Thank you so much, Dr. Usri. When we talk about exploitative pricing, we are talking about profiteering, we are talking about price gouging. In general, when a price is excessive or unreasonable, in relation the product supply, So when we look into the supply chain, as you know, the three basic components of a supply chain is always the manufacturer, the middleman or wholesaler, and the retailer. Okay, but it's not as simple as that. Sometimes there's a layer of maybe wholesaler, distributor, and then you go to main retailer, and then you go to sub retailer, and of course the end retailer. So what happened because of the pandemic? There seems to be disruption maybe in one or two parts of the supply chain. So when there is disruption, at the same time there is a demand, or sudden demand by the consumers. So the manufacturers or the wholesaler or the retailer are facing issues to meet with the demand. So when this happened, due to they lost people to work for them, and then there's inflation. There's disruption in other countries for other materials for their products, and then they will somehow either automatically or they just take the from that situation the advantage, they raise their price. So the consumers have no choice but to take it. At that point of time, they are just price takers. So, but suddenly we realize, oh, okay, they are becoming exploitative towards the consumers and whatnot. So, my CC, in looking at supply chain, we always inform the government. You have to address the issues with a long-term policies. So exploitative pricing always happen during economic crisis, always happen during when there's imbalance of supply and demand and whatnot. But it can be addressed through proper implementation of industrial policy and competition policy.
As a follow-up to what you have said, I'd like to ask you a bit about pricing. Okay, even before COVID-19, my CC did a market review on transportation sector and the food sector. In the case of the food sector, it was carried out in November 2018 to 2019 July. This was the pre-COVID-19 situation, and the market reviews was really interesting because that it says that the food trade balance deficit of Malaysia is around 4% per annum. The prices just keeps on increasing. And what was really interesting to me as someone who read the report was that I didn't realize that Malaysians were eating ikan kembung, okay, the so-called rakyat fish, from places that were imported to Malaysia from places as far as Africa, for example, and India. I thought that ikan kembung was something that we buy from Terengganu, okay, or somewhere in the coastal area, but we're buying ikan kembung from other places, which obviously it has added cost to it. And those of us who do marketing or follow our spouses to go marketing, okay, knows that we are eating chili padi from Bangladesh and of course Thailand. Can you share with us, in our case, because you did the market review on beef, and beef in Malaysia is more expensive than imported beef, okay? So trying to understand the parables and the reasons for all these price increases, or rather high prices, and the takes from your market review for the food sector.
Yes. Behind the issue is that, okay, the start of all this, I must say, because the government has changed the policy. They go for industrial activities more. Yeah. So somehow the agricultural sector has been sidelined. They have to compete for land and whatnot. Yeah. But when we carried out, okay, it was in 2018. I mean, the issue was again at that point of time exploitative pricing of our foods. Yeah. I mean, this thing will, I must say, it will be never ending. What we can do is that to reduce the impact on the consumers. So what we did, when we did the market review, we went down, okay, to the ground. We, what do you call that, we invited people from MAFI, Ministry of Agriculture, Pharma, Mardi, Department of Fishing, and whatnot. I mean, we came together. Okay, this is what we found. Okay, for ikan kembung, as you know, ikan kembung, 9 out of 10 Malaysian will eat ikan kembung. Yeah, it's a must. Yeah, I don't know why, but ikan kembung is something like a staple food for Malaysia. Yeah, if they can't find other fish, okay, if there is ikan kembung, that's fine enough. And ikan kembung is the epitome of what do you say, that the food chain, in the sense that, okay, if the prices of ikan kembung goes up, every fish in the pasar, in the market, will go up. We don't know why. Yeah. So when we look deep into the supply chain, what we found is that ikan kembung usually we get from Kedah, from Kuala Kedah. Yeah. So it will go, okay, it will go to the jetty from the Nanayan to from the fishermen to the jetty, And the jetty, there will be jetty owner will buy first, and then there will be another agent, we call it daganan. Okay, daganan ni is a sub apa orang kata agent lah. Okay, so daganan, and then daganan will sell to another wholesaler, and then another wholesaler will sell to another sub wholesaler, and then it will go to pasar burung. Yeah, mind you, pasar burung Kuala Lumpur is the most important food hub in Malaysia because it supplies 10 million to 10 million people. Yeah, our population is concentrated in Klang Valley. Yeah, 1/3 of Malaysian plus foreigners, okay, are concentrated in Klang Valley. So they have to go there, okay, and then when it reach pasar burung, it doesn't stop there, Datuk Seri. Then it will go to another pasar, smaller pasar, and then it will go to another retailer in terms of, like say macam kedai Aceh, ya, kedai Aceh ataupun whatever lah, kedai-kedai biasa, okay. Then that is why the price of ikan kembung went up. You see, there's too many middlemen in the middle. At the same time also, we are facing the shortage of ikan kembung. We had to import from China. I thought we only import at 70. Yeah, so jadi what I'm trying to say is that there's too many layers in the middle. So we have to reduce the role of middlemen from, let's say, 7 or 8. We should be 2, and then we should use digitalization to make the supply chain more efficient.
When I glance through the report, if I'm not mistaken, okay, I could be wrong. Through the list of countries, what caught my attention was this: why is Singapore? Why are we buying ikan kembung from Singapore, for example? What's the role of Singaporeans here in ikan kembung? Am I right?
Yeah. So you see, because we buy fish from Indonesia, we buy from Singapore, we buy from Thailand, you know, because we are short of ikan kembung. It's like if you can't get chicken, people will get angry. Then it's the same with ikan kembung. If you can't get ikan kembung, people will get angry. Yeah. So there must be a constant supply of ikan kembung in Malaysia. For beef, for your information, we import 80% of our beef from 3 main countries: Australia, New Zealand, and India. So India is for the mass market. Actually, India, we don't import, cow's meat. It's actually apa kata kerbau. Kerbau, buffalo, sapi. Yeah, it's not pure cow. Yeah, that is the one that you eat at kedai mamak. Yeah, that give better taste to your rendang and whatnot. That is for the mass market. But for beef from Australia and also New Zealand are for the for prime steak beef, yeah, chill beef and whatnot. The thing is, right now we have scattered owners of cattle here and there, especially in the East Coast, but they are not like big farmers on this in this industry. So somehow we don't have this proper policy on how to make it more bigger, in the sense that at least we should increase the supply of local beef. Yeah. That's why local beef is 40 ringgit per kilo, but the beef from India is about 30 ringgit to 35 ringgit. You see? So there must be a reduction of importation of beef from other countries. The other, Dato' Seri, what we suggested to the government is to diversify the importation source. Yeah, go to Argentina, go to South Africa, go to Serbia and whatnot. Yeah, so that the more competition we get, okay, the more better terms that we get.
From your knowledge and observation, why is there a lack of bigger and more efficient, bigger number of players to import this kind of beef into Malaysia? Why is it only limited to a few countries? Is it the result of cartel? Is it the result of exploitative pricing among the players? What is the cause?
It is a combination. Yeah, it can be because of exploitative pricing due to their status. You see, all these players, they have been there for so long, for many, many years. I can see more than 20, 30 years, 40 years. They are in the beef industry. You see, so basically they have these long-term contracts with this importer. You see, if you go to the importer, let's say you go to Australia, and then of course that importer must be certified halal. Yeah? And then you go there, and then they will say, no, I have this distribution agreement with this company A. So you can't do anything about it. You see? So, and it's a very capital intensive industry. You need a lot of money because it's not easy to import beef. You see? To ensure the freshness, to ensure the quality, you see, you need a lot of experience, you need a lot of capital to bring in the beef into Malaysia. You see? So there's a lot of issues. Of course, when we study the market concentration, there are few players that are basically dominating the beef industry in Malaysia. But dominating doesn't mean that they are abusing their power. It's just that we know that when there is a market concentration, there will be an issue. There will be an issue. Because in the end, we will become the price takers. Yeah? So that's one of the issues.
We will now turn to Professor, because we've been talking about the limitations of food importers, the positioning that they do, and that, but now, as Prof has said earlier, she shared a bit about how the Malaysian middle class has slid down or shrunk. So the Malaysian middle class has become M30 now, and the B40 is now B50. It is quite, not just quite, it's very serious because that it means that in terms of growth and in terms of consumer patterns, the middle class has shrunk and B50 has become B50. We see conflicting reports. Sometimes the media reports B50, sometimes it reports B40. I do not know whether it is an absence of data or inconsistency report by the media or by politicians. I'm sure politicians would prefer it to be M40 rather than B50. But going further, obviously that it needs more than just a mitigation factor. Providing them support is just temporary. In the long term, what do Malaysia really needs? Okay, we seem to have little emphasis on food security. I joke about it. I think we emphasize too much on political security rather than food security. Okay? So we need to hear from Professor, what is the best solution to solve the issue of both exploitative prices, the rising cost of living? What are some immediate concerns that need to be addressed? And for the long term, what can Malaysia do to make ourselves food sufficient and be a food producing country? If it's not in Malaysia, can we do it outside the country as part of the Malaysian plan and assets? Professor?
Thank you. If I have the answers, I will be the minister now. That's right. Right. Okay, guys, the hardship is already at the shore. We have to face the music. Like it or not, we have to face it, right? We have to sacrifice to help the poor lot to improve their lives so that they can join us in our economic progress, right? So we have no choice for temporary situation. We have to say, for example, to the producers, we help them with cheaper input, for example, right? Facilitate their buying process for input, yeah? And for the consumers, for the poor lots, the urban dwellers, for example, give them coupons so that they can buy food cheaper. There is a concept of marketing for the poor, you know. So when the poor buy rice, they don't buy like us one big bag, they buy small pieces or detergent and so on because they can't afford, right? So you have to package in a small scale so that they can afford to buy those things. But in the medium term, the government should incentivize everything. incentivize the production of alternative input locally. I mentioned to Datuk Sri that Malaysia import 90% of our input, you name it, seeds, breeds, feed for livestock, machine, labor, everything. That is why our cost of production is very high. That's why we can't even develop our livestock industry. I mentioned to Datuk Sri and Datuk yesterday, if you look at YouTube, we just type Saudi Arabia. They are a country where it is an arid land, so is Israel, but technology saved them. Technology made them green. Whereas Malaysia has everything. We have land, we have sunshine, we have rain, we have the second richest biodiversity in the world per square meter, right? But we ignore it. We focus on oil palm, right? Of course, oil palm give you cheap cooking oil. What else, right? We can't even produce cabbages for years, and we import from Indonesia, we import from China, cabbages, not mentioning onion and the rest, right? And if you look at, I have the data, our self-sufficiency level, except for eggs and poultry, everything has gone down. Ikan kembung that you mentioned, they are from Malaysian waters, because our South Selat Melaka fish have already exhausted. So we can't afford to go deep sea fishing in the South China Sea. So the Thai has harvested our ikan kembung, bring it to Bangkok and export to Malaysia. So don't think it's from Thai water, it's from our own water, right? So that's a poor natural resource management. So in the short term, you have to have the poor, but temporary, right? Don't give subsidies continuously. They will be dependent on that. Things like urban farming, vertical farming, give them incentive so that they can reduce at least 10% or 10% of their expenditure. But for the long term, ladies and gentlemen, I've written an article in The Age. I said the next golden crop, let it be food, not oil palm. Oil palm is, I'm sorry, it's very devastating to the environment, right? No improvement in FAB yield, no improvement in OER, so much outflow of exchange, foreign exchange to pay for the laborers. So who benefits really? Of course, the big corporates benefit, but the small people don't benefit. The society don't benefit that much. But food will improve human resources. So as in the case of Japan, as in the case of Nordic countries, food will enhance our diversity. Food will protect our environment. Food provide ecological services. It will bring back the bees, right? In America, they're crazy now. They want to bring back the bees because of the large scale of vertical fertilizer spraying using helicopter kill the bees. Einstein said, if you kill the bees, 10 years time we will have no food. Right? Think about that. So what I'm trying to suggest, and my friends, build domestic production capacity. Israel could do it, and Ireland 50%. Holland could do it. Vietnamese could do it after turmoil. China could do it. Thailand could do it. Why not us? Right in the tropic country with so much biodiversity. Productive capacity means R&D and extension, technological adoption, farm institution, lots of support, microcredits, you name it. The youngs have to let the youngs come in with their innovations and so on, the drones or AR, the IoT, the blockchain, get them in, incentivize them, give them support and so on. I think in no time, we can be Vietnam and Thailand.
Okay, this is really getting interesting now. You are involved in food security. How serious is Malaysia now putting emphasis on food security, besides the rhetoric that we get occasionally and there? Has Malaysia woke up from the slumber, or is just we continue to import and just talk about it and not seriously putting real attention to get it moving?
Okay, the other day I ate a fried meat, and all I found two pieces of vegetable in the whole plate. I said, why is this? It's so expensive. Right, that is one day. So imagine if you do like that for 1 year, you'll be stunted. 1 in 10 of our children are stunted, and that is in Putrajaya, based on UNICEF. In Kelantan, in Terengganu, the proportion is higher, right? That is at one end. At the other end, Malaysia is a hero for obesity in ASEAN countries. 50% of our adults are obese, right? So I think this crisis is good for those who are obese, that they reduce their food. But for our children, don't let them go stunted. We need good food, fresh food, high quality food, so that they can learn better at school, that they become stronger and taller like the Japanese, right? So, I don't know, it's simple actually, guys. It's political commitment, right? What is left with industrial crop? Cocoa has gone, we missed it. Rubber is dwindling, only oil palm, right? Only oil palm, and Indonesia is taking over us, and we are still struggling to compete with us. And in no time, once they move to Kalimantan, we will be phased out. So food does not require 5.8 million hectares. Cameron Highland alone is supplying 80% of Malaysia's requirement. So it is land intensive. It doesn't require big area. In fact, 1 hectare of vegetables can give you 10k return per month compared to oil palm. And as I said earlier, the benefits or the multiplier effect of foods is far-reaching, right? Remember, in 2015, European Union has declared it's the year of small farm and family farm. They are moving away from industrial agriculture. Industrial agriculture is cruel to the animal, cruel to the environment, cruel to soil, and so on. So the future of agriculture is in the small farm because it doesn't affect the environment, and it's dynamic, it's equitable, and it gives value, harmonious value to the family, to see food right in front of your eyes, to see the trees in front of the children, which is good in the long term, and landscape benefit and so on. So the future is in our hands if we give commitment towards production of food. I have proposed, I'm in the Majlis Malaysia Negara of Thailand, I have proposed food first policy. Let the next golden crop be food. Thank you.
Okay, I want to ask this to Iskandar. Now, obviously, when we compare Malaysia to Indonesia and Thailand, we always have this issue of land scarcity. We have already planted most of the land with palm oil. And the result is that we have less possibilities and opportunities for growing food. Now, for China, while they have big, huge land area for farming and they adopt very strong technology, that's why they can sell cabbage at a much cheaper price than Malaysian growers. Now, but just to pick your brain, okay? Is it possible for, say, Malaysia, whether it's a private sector or a GLC, to say that let's just lease a piece of land in Cambodia or Vietnam to plant corn? Because I know the Chinese are looking for land in these areas to plant all kinds of agriculture, and after planting the agricultural products there, they send it back to China. Okay, and they just pay the Cambodians or Vietnamese for the use of the land. Is this something that's feasible, something that's different? So we don't just think of planting. We can't plant ourselves if we keep on having to rely on foreigners, or if we don't have the technology. Can we actually do this kind of approach?
Oh yes, definitely. We are not alien, to this contract farming, basically. Contract farming is happening left, right, in Malaysia. You see, like for instance, in the broiler chicken industry, you see, like KFC, they appoint these farmers to grow their chicken, and then they will buy, they will give all the chicks, all the inputs and everything, and then after 6 weeks, then they will take the. You see. So even when we talk about China, if I go to another country, Qatar. You see, what they did is that Qatar is a small country, right? But it's the richest country because it produces the most gas in the world. So what they did is that they bought 200 acres of land in Cambodia, again, to grow rice for them. You see. So after harvesting, and then every single rice there is in that 200 acres, and then it will be sold back to Qatar. You see, nations should emulate. You see, because we can basically, you see, the funny thing is that is that we are doing it in a palm oil industry. We bought lands in Kalimantan, we bought lands in other countries, and then we set up our own palm oil farm there, and then we grow our palm, and then we do everything, and then we will come back to Malaysia or we be directly exported to other countries. You see? So we can do that. You see? It's just a matter. This issue of this contract farming in overseas, it will solve many issues. We don't have to worry about foreign labours. You see, because we just go to their country, and then of course the country will be very happy because we give jobs to their people. So you don't have to create all this hassle to bring all these Cambodian or Indonesian or Bangladeshi to Malaysia. You see, so it can be done. You see, but there are few conditions for this. This is very important. From our observation is that the policy, if we implement this, the policy must be consistent. That is one thing. And then there must be continuity. You see? We take, for example, Food Security Council in Malaysia, which has been established recently. So what is happening to the Food Security Council? You see? Bring them back, let them talk to each other, discuss, and give the policy direction to the government. Okay? And then, talking about land, okay, one thing about this agriculture industry, they have to compete land with manufacturing. Yeah, manufacturing industry. That's one. Secondly, they have to compete land with the development of houses and all these buildings, factories, and whatnot. Okay. So all is left is just some land in nowhere, and then for us to do the farming. And because you are asking people to do farming in Go Musang and to bring it to Kuala Lumpur, the transportation cost will be very, very high. You see, we notice that in many states there are unused land. We have brought up this matter. The state government, because they control over the land, you see, and they know there are abundance of unused land, in Malaysia. Just give it to the farmers. It's better, just imagine. Do you notice that, Sri? Under the tower, the electricity tower, people are doing farming under it, right? TNB are giving rights to these people to do farming, tanam kucai and whatnot. Why don't the state give the unused land to all these farmers? Give them inside. Don't tax them. As long as the land is being used to the optimum, and that is good for our country, then I think, and then with the technology professor, I think it will be easy peasy for Malaysia to overcome this debacle. This is how I see it.
Interesting question, Prof. Given the scarcity of land, adoption of new technology where you don't really need land. I know that Japanese melons are planted, you mentioned Ijo, and even in Cyberjaya, where there's no use of soil. Okay? And I know of a professor from USM. He has actually set up a company to farm oysters, okay, in aquariums, in a commercial scale, okay. And I know for a fact that these Penang oysters, okay, which is farmed from aquariums, are sold in KL as French oysters, okay, at French price, okay. So it's a matter of marketing. But modern technology would that really help a lot as far as Malaysia is concerned?
Of course it does, right? Nowadays it's all about technology, but it has to be sustainable and nature positive friendly. I even come across one guy in Penang. He produced vanilla flavor from the trees, and he used modern technology and so on. This is the thing that the government must support. doesn't have to be a big project like GLC project. There was one GLC project, 100 hectares of papaya. It's a big papaya. But once there was an incident of disease, they couldn't handle it. Then it's all gone. Millions of dollars gone. Right? The bigger you are, the harder you fall. But these little people, the small business, if they fall, the losses is not that high. And yet, these little business are doing very well. I know a girl in Bangsa. She do some cooperation with Barrel in Pahang, Rao, to come up with a single origin of cocoa, and she sell that at her retail. That's the kind of business that we should support, right? That is a small business. They may start small, but with time, they'll grow progressive. I remember my former professor, Fatima, the future of agriculture in Malaysia is in the mint, in the flavor. Flavor for food, flavor for toothpaste, flavor for perfume and so on. Because these are very high value or very expensive item in the market. But it didn't happen. Right. Does that answer your question?
Of course, the question of beside growth, also a question of marketing. I'd like to share with you something interesting, which as a news person, I think is newsy, okay? And what anecdotal, but interesting. This morning I had a call, okay, or rather yesterday, I had a call from an American. She spent 6 years in Malaysia. She organizes durian trips and durian visits. She actually wrote a book about durians in Penang. And she's now back in the US. She has traveled to Hawaii and Costa Rica recently to actually see people planting durians in these two areas. Small, but people are trying. I know for a fact that because I've personally visited Darwin, they are planting on a big scale in Darwin. Now, back to this American. I asked her, when you organize these ASEAN tours, looking at durians, who are the people who join your trips, okay? Of course, it can't be Malaysian because as Malaysians, why would we bother to join and pay this masale on the tour? She said, let me tell you, I've been getting a lot of scientists and agricultural people who join me on this trip because they want to study, okay, how Malaysians plant their durian. They came in as tourists, joined my groups, and then they learn, and they also take the seeds back to their places. We actually been exploited, okay, unknowingly and unwittingly. So now she's back in the US. She's importing the durians from Karak in Pahang and Penang. So what is it that she's so special? I look at her marketing packaging. What is different, okay? The marketing was amazing. First, she put the faces of all the farmers on the boxes. She only imports the packaged durian, not the fresh durian. Now, what's the added value there? She claims, I don't know, maybe she's really doing it here. She claims that proceeds from the sales will go to the elephant sanctuary in Pahang. Now, for Masale, when they see saving orangutans, saving elephants, it melts their hearts, okay? So, she's doing very well because of one big elephant on the packaging. So these are some things that we need to know that it's not just selling by competition and that. Now, I'm coming back to the real issue, about this exploitative pricing, okay? Now, obviously, that as more nations fight for all these essential food items, policy and interventions from the government can sometimes cause these sellers to go to other countries where there are less regulations. But what does he mean by striking a balance between competition and industry policy? And what is the best way to achieve it? Iskandar?
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sri. Yes, when we talk about industrial policy, it's about government intervention. Government intervention in terms of making sure the industry players are thriving, being assisted, so that somehow they will somehow contribute to the GDP. But when we talk about competition policy, we are talking about liberalization and deregulation, yeah, and then minimum government intervention, yeah. So, okay, when there's exploitative pricing, what we found there are three main reasons. Yeah, One is because of the economic conditions. The second one is cartels or anti-competitive agreement. Yeah? And the third one is because of profiteering. Okay. So the role of MyCC is in eradicating cartels. Yeah? Cartels will definitely somehow resulted into exploitative pricing. If you look into our history, Dato' Sri, for the past 10 years, most of our cases are against cartels. Cartels are the supreme evil of competition. I mean, it needs to be eradicated. We are now, because we know now that, okay, sorry to say this, but many of the traders' associations are being abused in some ways that they are more concerned more about the livelihood of their members, and then somehow ultimately they created cartels among themselves. They will start talking about costs, they will start talking about pricing, and then somehow they will have this understanding of, okay, how much to charge and whatnot. Yeah, consciously and or unconsciously, they will do it. Yeah, that's why I've been telling all these associations. We have a lot of cases against the association. Say, if there's somebody, your members, maybe their shop is, being robbed or whatever. Okay, go and help them by all means. But if they are facing, this economic condition, yes, okay, you can go to the government and ask for, incentive or whatever grants, so that they can. But never talk about prices and costs. Once you are there in that discussion, I mean, there's no turning back already. Yeah. So, MyCC, of course, we will. We will not leave any stone unturned in terms of investigation of cartel. In fact, we are investigating quite a few right now, and we are seeing a pattern right now. Yeah, yes, we agree there is a supply chain disruption in the world because of the pandemic. We agree that the cost of energy has gone up. There's no doubt. Coal, electricity, petrol or whatsoever have gone up. We agree that the price of container have gone up from 2,000 per container to 10,000 per container. We agree with all that. But we do not agree when the association is giving signals to their members. There are a few of them right now doing it, in front of us, directly saying that, oh, I think we're going to, we've done this, and then we discussed with the members, and then we want to raise about 30 to 60 cents. 30 to 60 cents, if you're talking about the whole Malaysia, you see, it's not good. Seriously. You see, so the association must stop talking about the cost, talking about the prices. We are calling 2 or 3 associations right now. We want to meet them soon. We have to tell them. If they don't stop this, of course we will take actions, and then they will regret it. You see. But because of this pandemic, we are a bit taking this a bit soft approach, Dato' Sri, because we know the issues are real. But at the same time, they are taking advantage from them, which is not fair. That's why the government is facing trouble in explaining to all these people, to all consumers in Malaysia. When we talk about inflation, they say, oh no, the government is not doing anything. When we talk about containers, prices have gone up, they won't believe it, because the thing is, these associations are talking freely and giving signals. So we are not, happy, so we are taking action right now. Yeah.
So Iskandar, how much authority do you have in terms of MyCC, given the fact that the meeting that the associations they meet and then they increase by 30 to 60 cents is already a done deal already, and by the time that you act, they have already increased already. But how much? What are the challenges that you feel in enforcing and exercising your role in MyCC?
Okay, we can fine them up to 10% of the worldwide turnover. Let's say if they make 1 billion, we can take away 100 million from them. Okay, taking 100 million, let's say if we take about 10 million from them, I mean, during this time, I think they will go bust. Yeah. But of course, we are not going, we are, penalizing people not to the extent of making them, disappear totally from the, from the industry or from the market. You see? But we want to give a message to them saying that, okay, stop doing this. Cartel is a daylight robbery. It's taking hard-earned money, people's hard-earned money, just like that. You see, you are supposed to charge, let's say, 10 ringgit per piece or per unit. But because of your cartel, you are charging 20 ringgit. 100% more. You see. So that is the daylight robbery, Dato' Sri. So we can take action against this cartel. Tapi they are getting smarter. Yeah? They are getting smarter, they haven't, some of them, they got proper advice and whatnot. They say, if you want to avoid MyCC, you do your AGM, quietly. Don't call anymore all these reporters. Reporters are the, they will reveal everything, they will take pictures and everything. You see? So they will do quietly, they won't do it in black and white. They will just call their members, okay. They give signal among each other, to each other, maybe in karaoke ke, restaurant ke. This is real, this is based on our investigation and experience. I see, karaoke, golf, rumah sendiri, and then, it's funny, Dato' Sri, there's one case that we investigating, not investigating, we have investigated. All these competitors, they gone to this one house, and then they said, we went there just to see the toilet, because the owner, who is the one of the important people in the association, they said he just renovated his toilet, so we want to see lah, wanted to see. So it's ridiculous, yeah.
Smile. Do you need a part-time investigator? I'll do the karaoke and restaurant part for you. Okay, now question of when we talk about cartel, in our mind, like it or not, it's always about private sector. But there are also concession agreements where government policies, unwittingly or whatever, they lean towards a certain industry players, and sometimes this leads to monopoly. Perhaps that Prof can answer this, and Ismail can come in.
Yeah, that's my question to Iskandar. How come some monopolies remain for 50 years, decades after decades? For example, import monopoly is held by one agency until now. The same thing with sugar, the same thing with flour, right? And how come some sectors are outside your domain, Iskandar, telecommunication and so on? Are they natural monopoly? So, I don't know, this is a bit discriminatory, and because I've done studies on paddy and rice all my life, and I mentioned to Dr. Nassar now, because of the monopolistic situation and also the joint ventures or the collusion between the importer, wholesaler and miller. So you can imagine, it is strong at the middle, it's like an hourglass. At the bottom are the tiny producers, weak bargaining power producers. At the end, M40, B40, T20. The M40 are the poor one, and the B40 are the poor one. So they have no bargaining power to face this trade association, to face big millers, to face big importers who are joint venture each other, right? So they are at the mercy of this big timers who has market power. So that's where it is, right? And I heard, this is what I heard, the decision was not implemented in Parliament. It was one person Parliament, Mr. Bronies. And these governance issues are very much related to your domain, Iskandar. without changing the governance structure. Those corruption and discriminatory policy or monopolies will continue. You have not included procurements. The evils up there is the procurements, you name it, right? Remember the project of a computer for schools? Layers and layers and layers of subcontractors. In the end, the kids didn't get the computer. By the time they get it, it's very expensive. Remember, computer to university, 70K per unit of laptop. What is that? It's procurement. Or some projects, infrastructure project, improvement of toilets, improvement of office, of course 10% extra, 30% extra. Imagine all those years, 30% every year. Who pays for that? And who pays more? The poor pays more compared to the rich. So we public has to subsidize the government for their inefficiency, for their corruption. So I'm sorry to say the word corruption. It is is real, it's a fact, and I am so happy to see young people. Your future, your children's future is in your hands. You have to change that.
Aaron?
You see, this is the government policy to give concession. There's nothing wrong with the concession because in the end, it's the industrial policy decision of the government. We have no issue against concession. But, okay, there's a but there. Okay, when you give concession to any party, which will create a monopoly, okay, or a dominant player, okay, that's where the MyCC rules come into picture. Like for instance, the case of MyEG, okay, we find them around 9.6 million for abusing their dominant position. Okay, we find around 10.3 million against DagangNet in the case of Sistem Maklumat Custom. Yeah, but the thing is, you have to understand, yeah, monopoly, okay, is not wrong. Yeah, it's not wrong. Okay, being a monopoly, be as big as you want, but do not abuse your position by bullying the small players or the new players in the market. Yeah. And to prove a case of abusive dominant players is not easy. They have strong commercial justification. Yeah? Because they always have strong commercial justification. So to prove a case against these people is not easy. In the recent market review, Datuk Seri, in transportation, our market review in transportation or port logistics sector, we found that the MMC corporation is basically dominating the port operation business. It's about 66%. There is a high concentration there. Because they control Penang, they control North Port, they control Johor, they control Melaka. You see, all these TEUs, all these containers are coming there. You see, that's why they have 66%. But there's nothing wrong with it. But what we advise in the market review is that to review the terms and conditions of the concession. You'll be surprised, or maybe you'll be disgusted. Okay? There are some concession agreement, there's no expiry date. Selagi bulan dan bintang ada, okay, they will be there. They will hold that market. You see? So it's not good. So that's why we're asking the government. So based on our research, okay, we have talked to the port authorities, we have talked to Ministry of Transport, we have talked to EPU, we have talked to everybody. We did not leave out anyone in that sector. And we came to the conclusion that the government, in giving the concession or the monopoly to any party, okay, they cannot do the old way, Professor. What they must do is that, okay, we know that it's capital intensive. You know, these people, they will invest 1 or 2 billion just to make things happen. Yeah lah. Tapi don't give straight away 30 years, 60 years, 90 years, or endless contract. Give 10 years plus 10 years plus 10 years. Macam kita sewa rumah, okay? 3 plus 1, 3 plus 2, okay? Every 10 years you review their performance, okay? And then make strict clauses to the agreement saying that If you want to do this business, you stay there. Don't go downstream. When you go downstream, you'll be, in no time you'll be abusing your position. Because the thing is, all these downstream players, they know that you are controlling the upstream market. So they have to be nice to you. If they don't be nice to you, if basically they forgo or they put away the competition towards you, okay, they will be afraid that if they don't do that, they will face obstacles in the upstream. You see? So that's why the government might be strict. Like for instance, in the MyEG is a very clear-cut case. Your concession is to process and approve foreign workers' visa. You should not sell insurance or for the foreign workers' visa. But you went down, became an agent of RHB Insurance and competing with other insurance agents and insurance companies. Because of that, the price of RHB Insurance went up. You see, went up 90 degrees. Turun naik macam tu. You see? And the others went down. Of course, it created a lot of trouble in the downstream market. So that we had no choice but to intervene. When we intervene, memang it's true. They created a subsidiary. They became an agent of RHB Insurance, and they make it harder for other people who bought from other companies, other insurance company, to get the approval of the foreign workers visa. They make it harder. You see? So, but of course, we are fighting them with them. What I meant is that, because of the issue is being brought up to the Court of Appeal and Federal Court.
Okay, we are running against time. But just want to ask about the MyCC. Okay, we have all this Competition Act and the Competition Commission Act. What kind of what kind of working relationship do we have with all these government ministries? Given some of them may not be quite familiar, Malaysians may not even be familiar with MyCC, and perhaps okay, even going forward, what is the future of MyCC in the next 5 years? Can you share with us, perhaps?
Oh yes. Today's event is about, it's a 3-in-1 event. Yeah, the first one is the forum, the second one is the Best Student Award for Competition Law subject, and then of course the launching of 5 years strategic plan for MyCC from 2021 to 2025. Yeah, so basically, maybe you don't realize, or maybe some of you have not seen MyCC in action, but we have noticed that the awareness among especially government officers or ministries have increased on the roles of MyCC. We are working closely with MOF, KBD Initiative, JKR, MACC and whatnot. Basically we want to ensure that competition policy is given the same emphasis as industrial policy. Yeah, that is very important. That's why the forum's title is Striking a Balance Between Competition and Industrial Policy. Usually, if you look back at the industrial policies set by the government, it will somehow create this anti-competitive effect. Yeah. So we have strategized for the next 5 years. Yeah. Based on the 12 Nation Plan, based on Nation Digital Economy Blueprint and whatnot. Okay, we have undertaken, to revamp MyCC. There are 3 main visions, 3 main strategy. One of them is to expand MyCC, amend the law, because soon we're going to have this mergers and acquisition power. Basically, any mergers and acquisition that is taking place, they have to get our approval first. But not now. Maybe in 1 or 2 years' time, it will be approved in Parliament. And then, but at the same time, because of this, we need to expand. We need to expand so that the issue of these mergers and whatnot, these unfavorable mergers like Grab and Uber. You know, and recently, Dr. Sri, have you noticed Munchies has been bought by a Philippine company? Munchies, we're talking about biscuits, 1.9 billion, you know, for their share being bought by this Philippine company, investment company. They paid 1.9 billion for biscuits company, you know. I think we can go into biscuits company, Professor, after this. You know, so you see, so this kind of mergers, they need the approval of by CC soon, because we don't want the mergers to lessen the competition. Lessen the competition. So hopefully this strategic plan will drive MyCC forward to bring the emphasis on competition policy.
So how can, what kind of bullets do you need? What kind of arsenal do you need to really strengthen and beef up your MyCC?
KPD officers and
which includes budget for part-time investigators. What do you need?
We need more budget, we need more people, more resources. You see, just imagine if right now we are investigating more than 500 companies for suspicion of big rigging, a cartel, a type of cartel, involving more than 3 billion ringgit worth of tenders. So just imagine, we have more resources. You know, we can solve the case in no time. That's one thing for sure. And then there will be a lot of, we create a lot of saving for the government. People are now, some companies, they are now very worried because of, we have teamed up with MACC also. MyCC and MACC. Okay. So they are very worried lah. So hopefully we get to expand MyCC with more resources. That is the main thrust of this strategic plan.
Okay. Do we have time for question and answers that can flash? Okay, I'll read the first one. Isn't the exploitative pricing aimed to recoup whatever losses businesses have suffered in light of the pandemic? From Dr. Loka. Professor?
I agree with you, because the opportunities are there.
I don't agree with this. You know, whatever losses, you see, okay, to tell you the truth, okay, I'm a very straightforward government officer. I don't do business. I don't have any experience in business. I'm part of the policy makers in the government. But this thing is not right. You see, because, you know, of course, if you are in business, you must be ready to face the risk of going up and down. You see? And because you are going down, due to not the fault of the consumers, you want to recoup your losses from the consumers. And you forget that you are consumers yourself. Your mother, father, your adik-beradik also buy rice and ikan kembung. You see? So it's not fair lah. You know, this is not the time to recoup your losses from the people who are suffering together with you.
I don't condone it, Mr. Iskandar, but I agree with his hypothesis. These businesses, after 2 years, you know, where there are no businesses, so once the opportunities is there, even OECD admitted it, there is exploitative pricing among the traders, because the opportunities are there. Suddenly, everything has gone up. Why shouldn't you? You know, being a business, of course, this is unethical, right? But they take advantage of the situation. Must have profit, that's all. I don't condone it for sure.
Yeah, is there a follow-up question on this? Any other questions?
Can I add on this?
Please, yeah. Okay, you still want to have a go on it, okay?
No, you see, we receive some complaints, when we have this bubble, tourism bubble, I got complaints from my friends. They say, hey, these people they are charging the same and then they have this they get it's take it or leave it. You go to Langkawi right now and then you want to rent a car. Yeah, every car minimum price is 100 ringgit per day, and they want at least 2 days renting. Everyone is acting like the same. You see, we know Langkawi suffered a lot. But we suffer also. You see, so this is not the time for you to recoup your losses at the same time. And then recently, because of Umrah disruption, Umrah travel disruption, okay, the price of floor price of Umrah have gone up from 4,900 to 6,900, 40% increase. This is ridiculous. And you let these business people set the floor price. What will happen? Nak pergi haji, you take about 15 to 20 years to wait for your turn, you know. And now you have to wait for to raise another 2,000 ringgit, which is not easy for orang kampung. So, I don't think so lah. I don't think so. This should happen.
So on that score, that's why when you go to Langkawi, the price of ikan siakap is quite high. So that's exploitative pricing to recoup losses. Okay, the next one. How does competition law help make sure our economy is stable, Professor?
Of course, we need competition because we will have more players, small people, orang kampung, the small micro enterprise, rather than big corporates. If you take the case of fertilizer or machine or agricultural medication for farms, the top 4 companies control about more than 50%. It's highly concentrated. That's why for net importer of fertilizer and input as Malaysia, we suffer a lot. So much so that we don't have our input market for years. We are dependent, totally dependent, input as well as some output of food for Malaysia. So we need competition for equity, right? As well as innovation, as well as providing jobs to many.
Competition law will help 2 groups in the market. One is the consumer, the second one are the players. It will push the players to become more innovative, like Professor said. They will be more efficient. There will be more entrepreneurship taking place in the market. So when these 3 things happen in the market, it will give confidence to the consumer. Because consumer will get 3 things from this situation. One is competitive pricing. The other one is quality. The third one is choices. You see, when these 2 groups are happy, monies are changing hands, and the ecosystem of the economy will be very, very fluid and dynamic, that it can sustain all these, these challenges that is happening around us. That's why we need competition law. Competition law gives you the solution for mid to long term. All this while we've been firefighting. Competition law gives the stability in the long run. That's why I emphasize, if you make a policy, it must be consistent. There must be continuity. That is very, very important. When there's, when this, let's say, dasar is working well, don't stop. Don't even rebrand the dasar, the policy name. You see, when you rebrand, you are, giving emphasis to others, other factors in the situation already. So if you are continuous, you believe in that policy, and it works well for the economy, go ahead. That is how we should look at things.
Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. Obviously, that the advocacy by ICC is important. Sharing the work of and talking about the work of what this Commission is doing, including, for example, having this kind of forum. Just want to have these final words from this Professor and Sikandar. You have the first go, and of course, the lady will have the last say. Wrap up.
Okay, I think I've said enough already. Our hope, my sincere hope is that for the consumers and also the other stakeholders like government, ministries and others, keep supporting us. And then please understand, whatever we are trying to do is, we are part of and parcel of the government, you see. And then our aim is to protect the consumers. So we hope that we can get the support, continuous support, and also increasing support from other stakeholders. Thank you so much.
Professor?
Let me speak for the small people, the B40 and the M40. Right. I think competition is the panacea for equity. Let me take your attention to SDG goal number 10, which is to create equitable society, right? And competition can have a role, can contribute to that equity by allowing more people, the little people, the micro enterprises to be together with the economic growth, right? And those are the multipliers, right, in the long term, right? So it is worthwhile to help the little people, the poor, the micro enterprise to be part of your economic progress, and I think it will also indirectly in the long term reduces the governance and corruption problems that we are having, right? Okay, that's one. And number two, I understand some businesses requires big capital, right? For example, ICT and so on. Or food, for example, they are very small in the middle, right? And there are many small producers at the end. At the other end, small consumers. The only way to help them is to make them stronger, and there is no other better alternative but cooperatives. Mind you, in Malaysia, they look down on cooperatives. 2 weeks ago, cooperative of Bandar Raya, Kuala Lumpur, the shareholders are complaining they don't receive dividend. You know why? Because this cooperative have become investor-owned corporation, which is totally wrong. Cooperative is about cooperatives of business from the members, for the members, by members. That's separate cooperative from the others. So cooperatives has been damaged by poor management, not the concept. Concept is good. So what I'm proposing is increase the bargaining power and the welfare of the producers via producer cooperative, and consumers also consumers cooperative. CAP in Penang is not enough. If you go to US, 90% of producers are cooperative members, 90% of consumers are consumer cooperative. Thank you.
Thank you, Iskandar Ismail, and of course, Prof, for taking the time to share with us on the need to encourage competition, encourage efficiency, and of course encourage better pricing, at the same time striking a balance for incentives for the private sector and the government sector. On that score, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
That is the end of forum session on exploitative pricing, striking a balance between competition and industrial policy. We hope it was a fruitful and beneficial session for all of us. Thank you very much to our moderator, Yang Berbahagia Dato' Sri Wong Chun Wai, and our distinguished panels, Yang Berbahagia Professor Datin Paduka Fatimah Muhammad Arshad, and Yang Berusaha Mr. Iskandar Ismail. And I would like to invite our moderator and panelists to their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for a coffee break session. Kindly note that refreshment will be served at the foyer, and we will gather again in this hall at 12:30 p.m. for our next agenda. Thank you.
stay competitive in the global market, Malaysia must maintain a healthy and competitive business environment. Anti-competitive behaviors are unwelcome because it hurts businesses, consumers, and consequently the nation's economy. Cartels operate secretly and almost never surface. But the effects will be felt by consumers. 2 or more businesses for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a simple reminder, we will gather again in this hall at 12:30 p.m. for our next agenda. Thank you.